Hi, so today we're going to be talking about cleaning up sketches. In the last video, we talked about how to sketch better, how to sketch a good pose that conveys something. And in this video, we're going to talk about how to take a rough sketch to completion. I think a lot of people just struggle with being able to do rough work, but when it comes to cleaning it up and stuff like that, it might start looking stiff or just bad or something's wrong. And I'm here to discuss why that is. First of all, your goal is to clean up a sketch. The two skills that you need to have in order to do this is to be able to physically do it. Can your hand make that line that you want to make? And that's just draftsmanship. That's something you can physically train. And it might be kind of boring because all the draftsmanship exercises online are drawing the same line 30 times until you have a stable hand or something like that. The second component to this is do you know what you're drawing? It's a very simple question that people just kind of glaze over sometimes. This is the reason why when you want to make a more complex or clean piece, you really either need to have a very developed visual library, which means that you can pull things that you've drawn before and put that in the new drawing that you're making, or you really need to use reference. Because if you don't have a visual library or a reference, then how the heck do you know what you're drawing? You don't actually know what most things look like, so you really need to get reference. So for example, in the clip that's playing in the background here, we're talking about Judy's art again and how she cleaned up some of her rough sketches. If we were taking this as an example, the bakery piece with the original characters, do you really know what a trench coat looks like when somebody's bending over and pointing at something? Do you really know what somebody's arm looks like when they're resting on the counter like that? So when I'm doing these draw overs of Judy's standing poses, it's not that I necessarily know exactly what's wrong right off the bat. It's just that I have drawn so many people standing like that I kind of know how the legs should be positioned in order for this person to feel balanced and comfortable. If you haven't drawn that many standing people, you may just be haphazardly placing the leg wherever it kind of looks good. But when you go to clean it up, it doesn't make sense because people don't actually stand like that. Here's another example with crossing the arms. It's not exactly a wrong drawing, but if you've drawn people crossing their arms a few times, or if you look at reference, you can kind of tell very minute differences between somebody who's guessing at how arms look like when they're crossed and somebody who knows what arms look like when they're crossed. And there's also multiple facets to reference. You could find reference for very concrete specific things in your art, what does an arm look like at that angle. You could also find reference for style, for whatever piece you're doing. Do you have a style in mind? Do you know how you're going to execute this and what it's going to look like at the end? And this is why the first assignment I give anybody that I want to help with art is they need to tell me where they want to be. They need to make an influence map of artists that they really like, styles that they really like, and why. So that when we encounter issues like this, there's no excuse. It's you want to be here. You want your art to be the culmination of all these things. So if there's something you aren't sure about, you're not sure how to solve, then just look at these people and art that you deem to be aspirational. Another reason why your cleaned up sketch is not looking right is that possibly your base sketch is not giving you the information that you need in order to clean it up correctly. So what we're looking at here is an example from another one of my mentees, Abby. And to Abby, these are sketches that she intends on cleaning up later. And from my perspective, this is very hard to clean up. And even if she does, it's not going to look right because she has not solved the problems that need to be solved in the sketch stage. For example, just logical things, this dude's leg that's on the bed, it's being covered by books right now. And from that perspective, the leg doesn't have anywhere to go. She's basically hiding the foot behind the books, maybe because she doesn't want to draw the foot, or she doesn't know how it's going to look in perspective. But by hiding it like that, it kind of introduces like, if this was a 3D scene, then his foot would probably be like clipping into the books because that sort of position is not really possible. And the same thing is occurring with the other guy and the popcorn bowl or the snack bowl. If you draw through the forms and you try to really think about it, this bowl is clipping into him. It can't possibly be there because it like betrays the rules of reality. So in your sketch stage, these are the things you need to solve. You need to figure out like the placement of things. Are they logical? Does everything make sense? And Abby did in fact have a reference for this, and I was able to see that yes, the foot that I redrew matches the reference actually pretty well. And so the problem here is that I want to know if Abby can visualize a scene in 3D. Like if she gets a reference, can she picture that in 3D and can she take that framework to make the art that she wants to make? Another example with this art piece that Abby was working on that she wasn't sure how to proceed with, immediately something stood out, like just certain things were not solved in the sketch stage. Like I kept asking what the dress was, like how exactly is the upper body position? Because it doesn't really come across in the sketch at all. And that's what a sketch is meant to be. And so I asked Abby to pose for this, and we got some screenshots of her doing that pose, and we were able to draw over that image to get a more logical image. So yeah, pretty simple, straightforward. Honestly, I could have stopped 2 minutes into this video because like the answer is quite simple. And perhaps this is like a cop-out answer because the answer is technically like, just get your fundamentals down, man. But like that is, I mean, they're called the fundamentals for a reason. So yes, in summary, if you are having a hard time cleaning up rough work, then it is possibly because 1, your hand-eye coordination is kind of bad and you can't control where your hand is going. So even if you know what you want to draw, it's hard for you to physically execute it. Or number 2, you don't know exactly what you're drawing. You don't have a visual library for it and you don't have reference. So you're kind of just guessing where things should be and what things should look like. And because your rough sketch is rough, it's going to look right because you don't need to go into details that much. But once you go into details, you're going to need like concrete reference to back it up. Or number 3, your sketch is just messed up and it's not solving the things a sketch should be solving so that your clean version can be making it better instead of worse.